1, 2, 3.
Yes, it's the Late Late Breakfast Show with your host, Bernie J. Mitchell.
Are you in?
Are you in?
Hello, and we're here with. I'm going to introduce you. This is my favourite line at the moment.
Is it? Okay, please.
So, Andy, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
I think you asked me this last time we spoke as well. What am I known for?
You can chicken out of it.
Shall I change last time I said I was known as being a family guy, a marketeer, an agency guy, and owner of the London Bloggers Meetup, and I think we riffed on the fact that I wasn't Peter at a Family Guy for a little while there. But that's what I'm known for, all those things. Marketeer, agency guy, mostly those two things, and then for running the London Bloggers Meetup and an event called TechMap.
Yay! I noticed my Nimble profile said you're owner at TechMap nowadays.
Did it? Yeah, I changed that a little while ago. Did that feel a bit weird? Because obviously you started TechMap, or you were involved.
I was involved in it. I mean, I'd love people to think, if it comes to something even bigger, I'd love to think I started it. Just like there's I'll try and stick to your model we're going to talk through here. But there's a Google group on co-working, and the guy that started it about 6 years ago worked for Google, and he invented the hashtag.
He invented the hashtag. Yeah. Okay.
And now he's head of user experience at Uber.
That's a claim to fame, isn't it? I invented the hashtag.
I might even put a link in the show notes to his original picture on Wired magazine, which is all codey and geeky. And I got quite nostalgic about it because
I'd like to see that cover, Bernie. Yeah, post that, please.
Wired thing. So we've got Andy. Andy's going to come in. I've been wanting to do this for ages, and like once a month, and riff on marketing because we spend so much time riffing on marketing, and most of it's quite useful. So, a more
structured conversation. I think
which is obviously something I'm struggling with. But so,
you wanted to kick off by talking about strategy and planning and getting your head around a marketing plan before you start doing stuff.
Obviously, I know all about that. It's just maybe but I joke. But lots of people come to me and I mean, and this time I really do mean lots of people come to me not for advice, but like say, "Oh, I've got to sort out my marketing." That's the reoccurring theme in all the co-working spaces. A lot of the WeSharey startup-y people I know. It's like no one's really knows what to do.
It's really interesting for me. I hear that a lot as well. I talk to a lot of small companies, startups, or just small businesses that have been around for a while. And one of the things they struggle with the most is their marketing. And they have almost a mental block with that. For me, it's the other way around. I struggle with finance, and I get stuck with the numbers, and the communication side's a little bit easier. But one of the things that most smaller companies do is they just start doing stuff. They start communicating, they build a website, they start social media profiles, they start doing some paid search advertising, they respond to a salesperson that rings up and says, I've got a great deal for a quarter-page ad.
Yep.
And you get suckered into all those things because you haven't started with the obvious place, which is what am I actually trying to achieve here, and what does my strategy and what does my plan look like?
So how's it looks like you've got a little system there, which I've seen you presented this before, and I wouldn't say I've followed it, but I've taken parts of it away and applied it to stuff.
Well, this is something that I always talk about with small companies because it's such a good model for structuring your marketing plan. And it's not my model, so I won't claim that it's mine. It's by a guy called P.R. Smith, and he created this model called SOSTAC, SOSTAC. And I don't think we're going to have time to talk through all of that, but let's start at least with the first 2 or 3 elements of SOSTAC. And the first one is situation.
And what does SOSTAC stand for? The whole
each of them. Yeah. But situation, objectives, strategy, tactics, action, and control. And the situation is all about where are you now. The objectives is where do I want to get to? The strategy is how am I going to get there? The tactics is what am I actually going to do? The action is who's going to do it, and the control is how do I know if it's worked? Mm-hmm. And how am I measuring whether that particular tactic has worked? And put all those things together will give you a rather nice, neat, tidy marketing plan. And as with all plans, it will evolve, it will iterate, you'll test and try things, and some things will work and some things definitely won't work.
It will pivot.
It'll pivot, maybe. Yeah, that's a good start at word, Bernie.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case with any marketing. You know, you always have to test and try things out and iterate, because you won't know until you've tested something whether it's going to work.
So when you do a marketing plan, how long do you plan for?
I typically would say to a small company, plan for a year and then review it after 6 months.
Yeah.
Because that gives you time to think through what am I going to achieve in that time frame, and then a good window of opportunity to test something out and see if it's working or not. If you try and test in a shorter period, you might not give yourself enough time to see whether that particular tactic is working or not, and it won't give you enough time to really assess whether you're getting a return from your marketing investment. There you go. ROMI, there's a nice acronym to throw into this show.
Quick, ROMI.
Return on marketing investment, your ROMI.
Or Rumi, which that's another company. So if let's talk about this through a model, because as you're talking, I'm going, this would be great to apply to something. And there's a lot of freelancers that listen to what we're doing here, but the biggest sort of grown-up company would be a co-working spaces.
Yeah.
So if you had say we started Bernie and Andy's co-working space, how would we kick off at the beginning?
Well, I want to look at the situation. So where are we now? What have we actually got? What does the product look like? Mm-hmm. And importantly, I think two of the key metrics that every startup needs to know is, what is the cost of acquiring a new customer, and what's the lifetime value of that customer? Because when you've got those two numbers, you can then work out, well, what should I spend on my marketing to actually achieve the acquiring those customers? So you know if the lifetime value is less than the cost of acquiring a customer, you haven't got a profitable business in the first place. So something's wrong in your business model.
So with that's something I never knew in Tag Tribe, because I was so overwhelmingly enthusiastic about getting people together, and other things came from it. But like at no point did I knew this then, but at no point did I sit down and go, right, so how much what would it cost? I just wanted to like throw it all together, and I would venture to suggest, Mr. Bartrey, that quite a lot of people might do that too.
I would say most people do that.
Mm-hmm.
You get caught up in the enthusiasm of your great new idea. I'm going to create this amazing co-working space. I'm going to build London's biggest, best new networking venture called Tag Tribe. Yep. And you do all the exciting, fluffy stuff first, which is knocking together a website, doing your social media profiles, and talking, communicating, and you don't go back to thinking through in the first place, what's my strategy behind, how am I trying to achieve my objectives? And that's where you need to start with your strategy. So that first part there is, what's my situation? And when you know the lifetime value of a customer and you know the cost per acquisition, you can essentially model a sales pipeline, and you can start to, as you run your communications, you can start to think about how are you converting leads through that pipeline. And that, again, really helps you as you are rolling out your plan.
Obviously I know what a pipeline is. But where do you begin with a pipeline? Because
if you know your lifetime value of a customer and you know how you convert through your pipeline, so from an initial inquiry at the top to when they've signed your contract at the bottom, you can work out the number of leads you need at the top of the pipeline to actually fulfill your revenue targets at the bottom.
So, and I think that I move people down that pipeline. So I'd get Andy into I don't know. So I get Kevin in to come and be in Andy and Bernie's co-working space. Is this where it's like a hot prospect to a conversation? Is that what we're talking about?
That sort of thing. Everyone's pipeline is slightly different, but it always starts with they find you somehow or you find them. Typically, it's that someone will search for co-working space London, and because we're brilliant at SEO, they'll find Bernie and Andy's hot desk in co-working space as the first result. Shortly afterwards there'll be work hubs and some other things like WeWork and stuff, but they'll find Bernie and Andy first, and they'll fill in a form on our site that says make an inquiry find out how we can help you grow your business at our co-working space. That's them entering the top of our sales pipeline.
So what can I do when I look out our so someone's going to stay for we just actually read a report that people stay for 57% of people stay in a co-working space for about a year, and then they either like graduate to something bigger or they go and find a bigger thing. So that's one thing. So I know that like the lifetime value might be a year for people being in our co-working space. And
well, no, the lifetime value is what they pay you over the year.
yeah.
So their life cycle is a year. So within a year you're going to churn through 57% of your customers. So you need a continual supply of new inquiries at the top of your sales funnel to keep your. Sorry, we need Bernie.
Thank
It's
you.
Bernie and Andy's co-working.
It's always like this.
So we
projects.
we need a supply of customers that's going to keep us satisfied with that churn rate.
So, like, if I'm charging them £200 a month, how should I work out how much it costs me to acquire them?
If you're charging them £200 a month, you'll know what the lifetime value of that customer is. The cost to acquire them is all the money you've spent on SEO and building your website and all that stuff that's got them into the door in the first place.
And I measure that against how long they're going to spend over
So
time.
if you spend over that 12 months, if you earn from them, they're worth to you £200. You want to make sure that you spend quite a lot less than £200 in acquiring them at the top.
So what's you might think I'm just asking these questions for the purposes of the podcast, but they're real. So what's the next stage?
Okay, so you know what your situation is. You know what your profit levels are. You know your turnover. You know the size of your business. You know what it costs to acquire a customer. All that great stuff. The next step is to think about the objectives. What are you actually trying to achieve with your business? So what are we trying to achieve with our co-working space, Bernie? I mean, I don't know. We haven't talked about our business plan yet, but I think we want to have global co-working spaces in all the hot destinations, starting in Peckham, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
With scuba diving and surfing.
Yeah, tied in. That's part of the model.
And childcare facilities.
We are co-working with scuba diving, travel, and childcare facilities, and we want to be turning over. How much money do we want to make, Bernie?
At least 20,000 a year.
At least 20,000 a year turnover. That's a lofty ambition. Okay, so what profits do we want to make? What do we think our margin should be?
I don't actually know what it is on co-working space, but we'll find.
Should we
out.
say 10%?
We'll
very
say,
modest.
We'll say 10%.
Okay, so we're looking for a 10% margin. And are we looking to employ people? Are we looking to hire a marketing department? Do we want to do it ourselves? Do we want to...
So at this stage, what do you think is best? Because obviously being a marketing agency, you're into being hired, but
no, I think we're bootstrapping, so let's do it ourselves.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've got a sense for what our objectives are, and we're blurring the lines there between objectives and strategy. Actually, Bernie, that's my fault. But our objectives then are to have a global empire of co-working spaces. Turning over each £20,000 a year with a 10% margin, which means you and I get rich on about £2,000 a year per co-working space. But with those numbers, we're not going to be retiring anytime soon, but that's okay. At least now we have targets. We have our objectives. We know what we're trying to achieve. And again, this is something that so many companies I talk to just don't have. You know, they want to be the best co-working space. They want to grow a great website. They want to sell shoes or whatever the objective is, but they haven't really put a figure against it. And that's the difference, I think, between a growth business and just a lifestyle business. Is if you want to grow, you've got to put numbers and objectives and targets against what you're trying to achieve.
And how do they find most of their marketing information?
How do you mean?
Do they just Google it? Do they read a book, or do they go to whatever business thing's called nowadays?
Want to work out what they're going to do?
Work out what to do, but just to get marketing advice. Is it?
Well, there's so much marketing advice, isn't there? It's everywhere. You just have to open up Google and type marketing for small companies, and there you probably get a couple of million results. And it's easy to just start with that way and see the first piece of advice you're probably going to see is every business needs a website. Get your shop front sorted out. And,
Does every business need a website?
pretty much, yeah, they do.
I'm so glad you said yes, because I would have been. I've got a whole pitch prepared.
Every growth business will need a website, that's for sure. That's without a doubt. But I think what they need first and foremost is a marketing plan, a marketing strategy.
Do people try to make a website before they make a marketing plan?
Yes.
And what do you think people just miss out when they're talking about their website or putting it together?
They will probably create a website that needs to be replaced within 12 months because they won't have thought through all of the requirements of that website in terms of what does it actually need to do for their business. So we were talking to a client recently, a prospective client I should add, and they wanted to redesign their website to make it more of an e-commerce platform, somewhere to sell online. But they didn't want to go through the process of briefing out what exactly that site needs to do for them. So they just went off to a web designer and said, can you build me a new website? I've got a budget of X. Off you go. And didn't take the time to plan out what the strategy for that site's going to be. So I can guarantee in about 12 months' time, they won't have installed things like Google Analytics, that then in about 12 months' time, they'll need to refresh that site.
Yeah.
Because it won't deliver what they need. They haven't thought it through in enough detail.
What is what are the key components of a website at the moment?
Well, that depends on what you wanted to do for you.
I as soon as I said that, I knew that was the I just realised how my brain's only in like freelancer co-working things, like an IT consultancy company or a co-working space or a agency, that type of things.
Well, each of those are going to have a slightly different look and feel about it, but I guess what they're all trying to do is to get somebody to fill in a form or get in touch and make an inquiry. And they might do that in different ways. So a co-working space, so Andy and Bernie's co-working space, that's going to have on there examples of startups and other companies that have been at our co-working space, have benefited from our vast knowledge and experience of advising startups on how to grow their business. And can get a sense for this is a nice place to work. So there might be some videos, there might be some testimonials. It'll certainly work on mobile, so it'll be a responsive site. And it'd be very, very easy for them to get in touch with us to come down and have a look around.
That mobile thing is, I remember in 2010 going to a networking event and someone said, if your website doesn't work on a mobile device, you're screwed because... And he gave an example as if I'm looking for a pizza place, even if I really like you, if I'm looking for a pizza place on my phone on the sofa and my laptop's over there, I'm not going to go and get up and go, I'm just going to go for the one that works.
100%.
That was, where are we now, 2016, that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And people was, I don't know about that. And I can't believe I still see people who should know better at this stage with shit mobile sites.
Absolutely. Every site has to work on a mobile and a tablet without shadow of a doubt. We look at stats for a lot of our clients and the growth in the use of tablets and mobiles to access websites is incredible for all of our clients. So they all have to be on a mobile friendly website. But if we look at the IT company you mentioned, they're going to look at it slightly differently. They're going to present themselves differently. They're probably going to provide quite a lot of information that's of value to their target audience, white papers, reports, analysis, statistics, all that sort of stuff that their customers will use early on in the sales cycle to find out, to shortlist vendors. And then, of course, you want them to be supported by some kind of marketing automation platform. So I can see every time Bernie comes onto my website which content he's looking at. So in 2 or 3 months' time, when he's at that stage in the sales cycle, I can call him knowing what he really cares about.
And I don't know many people that... I know a lot of people that do, right?
You do, Bernie, yeah.
I don't know many people that actually track that very well. And I have these conversations like, how do you track that? And so...
The reality is that the marketing automation world paints a rosy picture that's quite easy to plug in a piece of software, whether it's HubSpot or Marketo or whatever it is, and that will give you that information straight away. But all of those platforms require loads of effort and energy and attention to get the most out of them.
So what's because I've been I don't know a lot about HubSpot, as in I know I can set you up. I've got into that once, and for the very reason you just said, I was like, fuck me, I'm never doing that again. But I know its potential. And then I like things, CRMs and stuff. I know their potential, but I just don't know how to use them. And I'm thinking, how much I know. If someone just walks into your business and says, "Oh, you should buy HubSpot or you should buy Salesforce," you go, "Oh, that sounds great." The journey that comes after that is horrific.
Yeah, and it's particularly horrific if you haven't done the upfront research in the first place. I think a lot of people fall into that trap of, with Salesforce, for example, buying the package that's a £5 a month, and suddenly they find out actually what they really needed to do is spend about £50 a month plus to get the functionality that they're looking for out of that CRM.
So I got to understand a lot about that because there's a guy called Mike who, for years ago, I started listening to his podcast called Button Click Admin, which is about being a Salesforce admin. So it's a really, really specific, geeky podcast, and probably
that is very niche, isn't it?
Even better, all right. And he started this back when Radian 6, Salesforce Marketing Cloud was called Radian 6. So he did this just up as having a bit of fun. And then 2 years ago, Salesforce brought his podcast because the podcast became so valuable to the Salesforce admin community. So it's got like this
amazing. So that's lovely content marketing right there. Is it still going?
Yeah. It's like,
what's it called? Button Click Admin. I'm definitely going to look at that. I love.
And he comes to London once a year, and we always meet up. Really, really good guy. But when I said to him, "Oh, look, I signed up for Salesforce," and he went through the whole thing. It's like, so if I would definitely use something like HubSpot or Salesforce, but I would definitely employ someone. And their only job in the whole bloody world was to do that. Probably link them together, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting, Bernie, is we've jumped right through our model, our SOSTAC model here. We're now talking very heavily about tactics, aren't we, and action and control.
Do we need to go back and do the S?
I think we need to go back to the second S, the strategy.
We'll do these three: SOS,
enough first,
and then we'll get to tax later on. Okay. So back on track, and you just. For the viewers at home and here, always bring me back in because I can go off forever on this.
You can, and I think it's important that we do come back because we're talking about strategy and planning, and that just illustrates really easily or very quickly how easy it is to go off track with marketing because you get into the stuff that you want to talk about.
That made me feel better.
That's sexy and interesting. And Bernie, you love apps and tools and playing with stuff and gadgets, and so playing around with CRM and Salesforce and HubSpot and Marketo is probably your idea of a great Sunday afternoon. But we should get back up to strategy. And the strategy is all about how are you going to achieve your objective. So what am I actually going to be doing to move my business forward? So if you know then who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to achieve, you can then create an appropriate strategy. So for example, for Bernie and Andy, we can say, actually, our strategy is to make our space only for ad tech startups. We're just going to go after the guys that are doing CRM, marketing automation, programmatic advertising, data management, big data, so ad tech marketing.
Maybe we should make this reality already.
I think there are a few incubators doing that, but that's our strategy. That's who we're going to go for, and we're going to focus probably not so much in Peckham because that's not exactly the heart of ad tech land. Maybe we'll get some space in Soho. Yes. Or maybe Old Street. And you see we're starting to refine our strategy a bit here around the product. Pricing, we're probably looking for people here that are pre-funding just to get a nice vibrant young community in here. So we're going to keep the pricing of the desk space a little bit lower than the WeWorks because they're quite expensive, and that gives us a chance to own a small niche part of the marketplace, rather than saying our strategy is to have a hot desk for anybody and it costs 50 quid a month per person or whatever that value is. We're now getting much more refined in what our strategy looks like.
So that strategy bit there, something that comes up is, say what sort of people do you need to meet? And people's answer is so often, I need to get in front of as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And do people say that to you?
I've heard that sort of thing often. It's about trying to go mass market rather than choosing a specialism, a niche, and going after to own that space.
So I think where I was attempting to go there is there's a bit of chicken and egg there, because I want to, and how to avoid getting in that situation, because we need to get people on our co-working space to pay the rent and all that type of stuff, but we need to go after ad tech people. So if 2 flower arrangers and a funeral director walk through the door, or we find we're attracting them, do we sort of drop our original thing and go with the...
Well, that's where you're starting to test and refine your marketing plan, isn't it? Because if you're saying we're just going to position ourselves for ad tech startups, and suddenly you get 2 funeral directors and flower arrangers, then you've probably got something wrong in your communications, and it's time to change either your communications or your strategy. Should you accept those people or not? I would say probably you're better off in the long run saying, thanks so much for your inquiry, Mr. and Mrs. Florist and Funeral Director. You're not quite right for us. We're an ad tech startup space, but why don't you go and try WeWork or somewhere else? And that way you'll stick to your plan, and you'll deliver your plan, and you'll become known for something. And that's, for small companies, really, really powerful, is to become known for something.
So how can we wrap this up now? Because I'm tempted to mention 12 more apps, but
I don't think we should mention 12 more apps. But I think if people are looking at their marketing and they haven't gone through that exercise, then have a think about it. What's your situation? What are your objectives? And then what's your strategy for delivering against those objectives? And then when we sit down together again, when are we doing this again?
We're going to do this every once a month.
Once a month. So when we sit down in a month's time, we'll talk about the TAC of SOS Tech. We can go through tactics, actions, and control. And if you're listening to this and you come back in a month, why not have your situation, objective, strategy mapped out, and then we can just talk through that. And it might make more sense if you've done your homework.
Mm-hmm. We can put links in the show notes as well to all these bits that we've mentioned. Is there anything else I can stick in there? If you say it in the podcast, I won't forget it.
No, I think if you want more information on SOSTAC, then Google it, PR Smith SOSTAC, or just get in touch with me or you, Bernie. I guess we can have a chat with anybody and point them in the right direction. But definitely, if you are struggling with your marketing and not seeing any return, it's probably because you haven't got a marketing plan.
So it's situation, objectives, and strategy.
Beautiful.
And more in next month's class. Thank you for tuning in. Where can people find you online, Andy Bargery?
Oh, if you Google me, Andy Bargery, or if you look me up on Twitter, Andy Bargery, or if you look for Claxon, that's easier to spell than my surname, you might find me there.
I'm doing really well at the moment because of in SEO, because a lot of people, because of Bernie Sanders in the States, a lot of people are Googling Bernie.
Yeah, but is it the traffic you're looking for, Bernie?
No,
these aren't the traffic you're looking for.
Because people looking for me are like, looking for that are Donald Trump fans who want to assassinate Bernie Sanders. So maybe not. But thank you very much for listening, guys. We'll chuck some links in the show notes. If you've got a question, Andy at andybargery.com, at Andy Bargery on Twitter, or at Bernie J Mitchell on Twitter. And thank you very much. And we'll see you in the cloud. Bye.
Please go to berniejmitchell.com/podcast. Bernie would love your feedback.